Yeah.
Ho Trunkraja, Wakunja Hade, Hinga Dena. I want to welcome everyone here tonight to the American Indian Movement Grand Governing Council show. And I'm really pleased and really excited to be here with all these legends and people that are really sticking up for our people. And the great history of the American Indian Movement is still strong and loud here. I'm so happy to be here. And I want to right away get Dave Ortiz on. And Dave, I would really love if Dave could explain what's going on here. And this is his brainchild. And then we can really go round robin and talk to all the members here. And I want to welcome Dave Ortiz.
All right. Good evening. My name's Dave Ortiz. This is my girlfriend Ramon. I am the director of the American Indian Movement Central Texas chapter, and I'm also the national chapter coordinator. And some of us have been discussing this show for some time, Frank and others, and Lisa, and so we turned to Robert and asked them to help us out. And this is our very first show. I imagine might be some growing pains, but we'll find it. I'm sure that Robert will be able to fine tune this so that we can have an outstanding show every day. I want to introduce my brother Joe Morales. He's the Sundance chief at Pipestone, and he's a Grand Governing Council spiritual advisor. So, and then also on here is Pete Honduras from I hope I pronounced that right, Pete. I'm sorry. From Maryland. He and Ramona are and Derek Shuck and what's his name, Jay? Jay and Jay are just started a support group. It's called AIM Woodlands Territory, and it's going to cover the Pennsylvania, Maryland, and probably DC area. So other people on here, I really don't never met. So I'll let them introduce themselves, or if
Can you hear me? My name is Joe Morales. I'm the Sundance chief of the Gathering of the Sacred Pipes Sundance. I just wanted to say Hehani Washte to everyone here, and thank you for tuning in, and welcome.
Wow, that's awesome. I just want to really, I want to go to the next gentleman here to introduce himself. And I do believe it's Pete Landros. And Pete, welcome to the show, and also Happy New Year to everyone listening out here on Turtle Island. Pete, could you introduce yourself and explain what you do and who you are?
Hello, everyone. I'm Pete Landeros. I'm a Pascualyaca Indian that lives here in the state of Maryland, and I'm the director of AIM Woodland Territory, which covers Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Washington, D.C.
Thank you so much for being on. This is really exciting. I think what I'd really like to do too is maybe add a few more people. But first, Dave or Joe, what is the Grand Governing Council of American Indian Movement? What is your job, and what do you do? Do you mind answering that, Joe?
Sure. The Grand Governing Council is the governing body of the American Indian Movement. We are responsible for tracking and making sure that everybody is representing the American Indian Movement in a good way, that everyone is walking the red road in a good way. And yeah, if Dave wants to add to that, he's more than welcome to.
Yeah, as people might be aware, there's been a, one of the last known founders, um, Clyde Bellecourt, um, transferred leadership. He didn't. He didn't step down. He didn't just It wasn't because basically it was because he just wanted to spend more time with his family, with Peggy. You know, uh, so he transferred leadership to Lisa Bellinger. So there's the members of the executive grand governing council is Lisa and Frank sharing the leadership roles, and then there's Joe, and then there's Frankie Orona, who's our tech whiz. He does everything, and he uses some fancy language that me and Joe can't understand. But and then we have Lonnie Blake, who is our secretary, and then and Smoke, who's also helping Lonnie with all the secretarial work. So that basically consists of the executive grand governing council, and like Joe explained, it's just a group of us that are kind of keep track of the chapters and try to install more support groups that will eventually become sanctioned chapters, and just keep everybody accountable.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really, what is the most important thing that the council, the Grand Governing Council, does? I want to go to Joe, and is this how we get bylaws? Is this how we get groups in different states? What are you guys part of that? I know Dave's a big part of that, and Frank used to be a big part of it before he was his new job. But how do you get, or what is one of the main things that we?
Yes, the Grand Governing Council definitely helps chapters with bylaws. Mostly, what we do is we are recruiting and trying to get support groups and chapters set up. Actually, each chapter is responsible for its own bylaws, which is kind of unique to the American Indian Movement, as each chapter has different focuses. For example, there are chapters that are not very very active, like on social media or anything, but they're doing things behind the scenes, not looking for attention, but doing things like making sure that elders on Pine Ridge have money for heat during the winter. Then we have groups that are only involved with, say, prison, running sweats in prison and spirituality in prison. Then we have groups that are involved in protests. We have groups that are involved in the mascot issue. So mostly what we do is we oversee all that. Thanks for making my shirt more visible. We oversee all of that and make sure that everybody, like Dave says, is accountable, that everyone, again, is representing the American Indian Movement National, which is what we are. The Grand Governing Council is the American Indian Movement National. We are the national body of the American Indian Movement. And so as the national governing body, we oversee each group make sure that they're following their bylaws, make sure that they're doing, again, all things in a really good way and following the red road, whatever each chapter chooses to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And before we introduce Frank, I would like to ask you one quick question. So how do I join AIM? How would anybody join AIM? And I know there's like talk about if you think you're AIM, you know, you can come join in. And what is like really, how do you do that? How would I become an AIM member?
That's actually a really good question, Robert. There's several ways to do it. If you want to become an AIM member, I would advise you to look in your area for a sanctioned chapter. If there isn't a sanctioned chapter in your area, or you can't find one, then I would encourage you to get a hold of Dave Ortiz, who handles new memberships, and he oversees all of the chapters. He oversees all of the paperwork, all of the support groups, all of that. So if you want to become a member, I would advise you to get a hold of Dave Ortiz. And again, if you want to start a group, which is another way to become a member of the American Indian Movement, you can start a support group, which I believe that you even have one. Yes, Robert?
Yes, I've been working on one. Slowed down a little bit since COVID and the battle in Minneapolis with the death of George Floyd. But we want to really get it going again.
Awesome. So you're a little bit familiar with that process, but that process is a bit more involved in that, you know, you put together your paperwork. Again, you submit it to Dave Ortiz. He can get you the paperwork. You submit the paperwork, and then you start a support group. After your support group for a determined period of time, which I'm not sure of, I believe it's 6 months at this point. Then you become a sanctioned chapter. So there's several ways to get involved. But also, you know, I would sort of mention the words of Clyde Belcourt, and that's that, you know, if you are AIM, if you're AIM in your heart, then you're AIM, and get out there and participate and be active and make a change, and don't just sit there. Oh.
That's right on. Hey, do you mind introducing Frank Pero, our new leader, Joe?
Sure. This is Frank Pero. He is the head of the American Indian Movement National, and I'll turn the mic over to Frank.
Bonjour. I apologize for my my computer knowledge. Lack of knowledge. I went started with what is that thing? A Chromebook. Then I tried a laptop, and I spent 20 some minutes playing with the phone. Greetings to everybody. Thank you all for joining us tonight. As Joe said, I'm the national director. I'm from Grand Portage Reservation in northern Minnesota. I've been involved with the movement since April of 1973. Some of you know how I got involved. I'll just say that I got involved in 1973. There's a lot of things that we could like to discuss tonight. But first off, I would like to recognize and remember Aimsters that we have lost this year. I'm going to mention three right off the top. Eddie Benton Benet, He was probably the most influential person involved with getting the movement started. We also lost Tom Poorbear. He was the vice president of the Oglala Nation out in Pine Ridge numerous times. Most recently, Savannah Foote, a water protector. She just passed. And all others who helped the movement become what it is today, going back a year or more. Folks like Keith Lucier, Red Laker, Steve Blake. Steve Blake was from Leech Lake, I believe.
I think he was Red Lake.
Red Lake?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I should have known that. That's where we brought him. Vernon Belcourt, one of the founders of the National Coalition Against Racism in Media and Sports, which is a very active group. And we're winning with the coalition. We got Washington on their knees. Cleveland's down to one knee. We're going to pull that leg out. Maybe on both knees in the next year or so. Numerous colleges and high schools throughout the country, we've got them to change their names. One thing I want to throw out there first too is I'm very thankful for those that stepped up to help in the transition of leadership in the movement this summer. On May 13th, when Clyde called me and told me this decision that he made, I didn't, it was hard. I heard him, I understood him, but I was speechless. And then we announced that change in leadership on May 24th. On May 25th, Monday, Minneapolis police murdered George Floyd. And that kicked off 12 days of mayhem and riots in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Twin Cities. I was amazed at the support that we got with the American Indian Movement Patrol and their supporters and other AIM people came in from all over to protect our neighborhood, because we knew Minneapolis police were not going to be coming down Franklin Avenue and protecting, watching our buildings and whatnot. We had to do that. For 12 days and nights we're out there. It was a hard thing to get through, but we managed. We got, we're working on goals for tomorrow, next year. Goals for 2021. One of our main ones is to create more chapters, become more vocal throughout the country and Canada.
Less invisible. Less invisible.
It's last week, 10 days ago, we sanctioned a chapter in eastern part of Canada. I forgot the province and what town Suzanne Smoke is from. She's the chairperson, president, leader of that chapter up there. I'm sorry I missed the first 25 minutes or so, so I don't know what anybody has discussed. So if somebody could fill me in, please.
Well, we started a little late, and so we've only been on about 18 minutes, so you aren't that far behind, Frank. And I just want to say, hey, thank you for your leadership, Peeny Gigi, for your leadership during that Minneapolis and rioting crisis and the murder of George Floyd. We all saw around Turtle Island how AIM stepped it up and how you protected Franklin Avenue and many of the buildings. Feel really bad about what happened to McGeezy, but you understand that couldn't be helped, right, Frank?
Yeah, that McGeezy, they asked us to come over. I had a phone call in the morning and they asked us to come over that night. So we got over there about 6 o'clock or so. About midnight, they asked us to leave, the McGeezy staff. They asked us to leave because there was
Yes.
a chance that the 3rd Precinct, Minneapolis Police Department's 3rd Precinct building would blow up from the gas lines. So we left about midnight. Got the staff to their cars and got them out of the neighborhood and sent our people. Our people went back over to powwow grounds where we were operating out of. And about 5:45 in the morning, flames from other fires, buildings next to it, landed on the roof. There was nothing we could do. There was nobody there. Even if we were there, we wouldn't have known that the roof was burning until it collapsed. But Robert, thank you for them words. But you know, it wasn't me. It was the community. It was other Aimsters. I was just one that put the call out.
Yeah, you did. And Oglema, her significant other came down. Oglema, do you want to give a shout out to Frank and tell your experience with AIM those days?
Sure. Bonjour, everybody. My name is Ogama Ganu Ikwe. I am an enrolled member at Red Lake Nation. I live in central Minnesota and saw the call go out after the murder of George Floyd for people to come and protect Franklin Avenue through AIM. So miigwech to you, Frank, and everybody in AIM who helped to coordinate that. The experience that I had doing that was unbelievably powerful. I'm not from the Twin Cities. I'm a few hours north of the Twin Cities, but I got in my car and I drove to the American Indian Center, which is one of the only places in the Twin Cities I know how to get to without directions. It's the safe place that I go to if I'm ever lost or I don't know where to go in Minneapolis. The American Indian Center in Franklin Avenue is a safe place for me to go. I'm going to meet people there that are like me, and I don't have to worry that I don't belong or that somebody isn't looking out for me there. And the experience with the AIM patrol in the aftermath of the riots was very much so the same. Everybody was watching out for one another. Walkie-talkies were supplied, flashlights were supplied, and everybody was just working together in this big hearted community. Whether we knew each other, we were from there or not, everybody was working together to make sure that Franklin Avenue stayed safe. And I stayed 2 nights. The first night I was there, I went to where McGeezy was the next morning. And I was debating whether or not I was going to stay another night. My family was calling me from 2 hours north going, please come home, get out of the city before you can't get out anymore. And I remember telling my mom, my family there in tears, that I can't let that happen to Franklin Avenue. I can't let what happened to McGeezy and what happened to the 3rd precinct happen on Franklin. I'm staying another night. So, I stayed 2 out of the, I think, 10 or 12 nights that everybody was there, some of the first 2. And I did have to return home, but it was and has been one of the most powerful experiences of my entire life. And I have always been interested in AIM, and for a long time, I didn't even know if AIM still existed. You know, living in central Minnesota, you hear a little bit about it here or there, but to see Frank and Lisa take over and to be on this call right now with so many people who've been involved for so long is amazing. It is absolutely, I don't even have any words for it. So Miigwech, and thank you everybody for all that you do, for allowing me to be on and speak tonight.
Oh, Inigiti.
Miigwech for those words. It's good to see you put a face to your comments and name on
Without a mask, right?
oh yeah, that helps out a lot. It wasn't just Franklin Avenue that we protected. We helped with the Red Lakers at the embassy on Bloomington Avenue. Division of Indian Works on Lake Street, Leech Lake office down on 26th, somewhere down there, and numerous other buildings throughout the community. But it was mainly Franklin Avenue. And when you folks that are not in Minneapolis, when you come to Minneapolis, you have to stop in at the Powwow Grounds Coffee Shop at 1414 East Lake Street. East Franklin. I got Lake Street on my mind. 1414 East Franklin. We operated out of their parking lot. And that's our unofficial office. Hopefully we'll get some office space in the next 4 to 6 weeks, I hope.
Frank, can you explain to everyone that's watching this all over Turtle Island here how important Franklin Avenue has been to the American movement and the history behind it?
The history behind Franklin Avenue.
Well, some say that AIM started on Franklin Avenue, and you guys had an office there.
Yeah, the history of Franklin Avenue is sad. It was full of bars, and if you came to Minneapolis back in the 60s and early 70s, even the 80s, on a Greyhound, and you got a cab, and if you look like you're Indian, the cab driver say, which bar you want to go to, Arts or Franklin or the Corral on Franklin Avenue? Seriously, because that's where we went. Was to the bars on Franklin Avenue when we came down. We would meet family, we'd meet friends, we'd meet new people, make new friends. Over the years, the movement worked hard, a long time to get all the bars closed. And we got the city council to pass a law that there'd be no bars on Franklin Avenue from 11th Avenue to Cedar Avenue. And one of the organizations that own the building power grounds have created what's called the cultural corridor. The long range plans is for every building from 11th Avenue down to Cedar Avenue have an Indian organization, Indian ownership in a business or something. All that whole street. Franklin Avenue used to be Skid Row, but that was our home. That is our home. I live out in the suburbs now, but Franklin Avenue was our home. We have to protect that. We have to support the Native American Community Development Institute. They're the ones that are heading up this cultural corridor deal. Redevelopment. It's a 20-year project. Got about 4 years into it now. And they recently opened up a drop-in center called Homeward Bound for homeless people. Primarily Native homeless people. There's 4 or 5 people over there that are not Native. But it's primarily for Indians. Say it again. And it's Indian-owned building. They got about 50 beds right now. It's very nice in there. People come and go. They feed them 3 times a day if they want to eat. When they come in, if they're alcoholic, they got to leave their jug behind the counter. If they're drug addicts, they got to leave their needles and drugs. They'll keep them behind the counter for them. And when you leave, when you go someplace, you can pick them up. It's not like in the Waikaigan, which is a wet house for alcoholics and drug addicts, where you can drink and get high in the building. It's a very safe place. When I walked in there the day before they opened, I said, wow, look at this place. This is, if you have a chance, get a chance, stop by, visit with the people. They're just like you and me, except they don't have a home. And that's sad.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, I'd like to throw it out to either Dave or even you, Frank. What is the future, or Joe too? What do you see as the future of the American Indian movement right now? What are the plans? I know to get more chapters, be more visible? What are some of the strategic plans that AIM is going through right now with the new leadership? And Joe, do you mind speaking to that?
Yeah, sorry, I have a little bit of trouble with the technology. Well, moving forward, some of the things that we've done to begin with is we've started a youth council that includes a couple of grand governing council seats that are held by two youth, one male and one female representative. We are working really hard, especially with Suzanne Smoke in Toronto on the MMIW situation, and we are continuing to work on the Sun. Specifically, I can speak for myself at the Sundance, working to include youth, working to make it more youth friendly, giving teachings, workshops. We're fortunate in that our Sundance is right there at the Pipestone quarries, and so we're fortunate that we have people there that that will teach you how to. If you come and you want to learn how to make a pipe, you can learn how to make a pipe. You can sweat there. Again, open it up to the youth so that we can move forward and pass this on to them, which is really to me one of the important things. I'm always really proud when I hear my son speak, and he talks about Clyde Belcourt, and one of the things that he says when he's talking about Clyde, if they don't know him, they said, "Well, who is Clyde Belcourt?" And he says he's kind of like our Martin Luther King, in that starting the whole American Indian movement, and really the whole Native rights movement, and that's what we need to continue to do. Still, suicide rates are the highest amongst Native people across Turtle Island. The highest suicide rates are on reservations across Turtle Island. Again, if you are an Indigenous woman, you are more likely than any other ethnic group to be attacked, raped. It just goes on. And so we as the American Indian Movement have to address all of those issues, move forward in a good way, looking to our women for leadership, and just moving forward.
Yeah, that's great. I got an opportunity to meet you and your son, and how he spoke with Clyde, and just the vibe from your son. You ought to be a super proud father, Joe. It's awesome. The future looks bright. I would like to talk to Susan. Susan, are you there? I'd like to get another woman's perspective of AIM. Do you mind speaking your truth? You're in the shadows there a little bit, but do you mind saying a few words of who you are and where you're from, Susan?
Hi, yeah, I'm Susan Ryder. I've been going to the Sundance in Pipestone for a couple of years now, and I am not Indigenous. I'm a white woman, but have been welcomed by the community there, and have been doing what I can to be a support and be an ally.
Well, yeah, thanks for stopping by and saying those few good words. Dave Ortiz, can you talk a little bit about your job with AIM and what you've been doing since I think you took Frank's job, didn't you, when the whole transition happened?
Yes, I did. I was I guess promoted chapter coordinator. It's my job to I'm kind of like the person that chapters communicate with if they have any problems, and my job is also to anybody out there that wants to start a chapter, like Joe was saying, if there's not a sanctioned chapter nearby, and if you're wanting to start a support group, I'm usually the person that you contact, and I'll walk you through it. First of all, having a good conversation with that person, finding out where their heart's at, they're really if this is something they really want to do, and if they do, then we'll start a support group. And the way the support group works is that you're under a sponsored chapter. They kind of like well, they sponsor you, and they walk you through, and within 6 months you are you'll take a vote, and usually most most support groups automatically just get voted in because they've been active. However, if there's a group that comes in and thinks that they don't have to do anything, that it's going to be an automatic, then they could be a support group for a year. Another thing that I wanna talk on. I imagine some people that are going to be looking at that are viewing this right now are going to roll their eyes at our group becoming going through the bylaws and all that stuff. And I want to stress that we are sanctioned chapters. People know there's autonomous chapters out there, and we have no say on those. And the reason that we that it was decided by the Grand Governing Council some years back to start this to start doing it in this manner was because, frankly, to tell you the truth, and I say this a lot, we're finding out that there was like a group coming up, say Mississippi, we're AIM Mississippi, and the guys all look like straight out of Duck Dynasty TV show, it's like, so what we do is that, we get to know the people that are wanting to become support groups and eventually sanctioned chapters, and try to make sure that, that they are, in fact, Native. That's what we do. And one of the things that I'm kind of insisting on with the new chapters and the support groups is because a lot of people have this perception that AIM leadership is just men, good old boys club. That's not true at all. And so what I'm asking some of these support groups is that they have women in leadership roles. We need to listen to our women. And so I asked all these chapters, support groups, make sure there's an equal amount of people in the leadership roles, and there's some support groups that are led by women, and that's all good. I think so. Hopefully, if I do my job, one day we'll have chapters in every state. That's my goal, and I'm doing my best to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know AIM was basically named by a woman, and I think that early on when AIM started, Frank, that women really had a really big role in this, right, Frank? And we also have Lisa that's working with AIM now too. She's on a sober powwow working on that tonight. But Frank, she works with you hand in hand, right?
I depend on Lisa a whole lot. She's the executive director. I have to answer to her. And people that know Lisa, you know how bossy she can be, in a good way. I just want to touch on one other thing though. Dave mentioned that 6 months for support groups. That's a minimum of 6 months. Just because if you've been active in doing things in your community, that's good. It shows us what their heart is. But like he said, if they're not doing nothing, it can take a long time. And they got to have a good board of directors, not just family members. The movement got their name from Alberta Donwin and Caroline Dickinson. At that first meeting that they had over North Minneapolis in 1968, there was somebody's house. It was full of people, mostly women. Mostly women. And to this day, we listen to our women. They're the ones that tell us what to do.
Yep.
If you're married, you know what I'm talking about. You listen to your wife, if you're smart, if you want to stay happily married. But the women gave us their name. For those folks that don't know what the name was before it was called American Indian Movement, if you're 50 years old or older, it was called the Concerned Indian Americans. And the reason I mentioned if you're over 50 or older, what is Concerned Indian Americans? It's like the American Indian Movement, AIM, Concerned Indian Americans,
CIA.
CIA. These women said, you can't. We got a name for you. It's the American Indian Movement. Clyde says, well, what is AIM? What does that mean? It's AIM. You guys are aiming to do this. You're aiming to do that and aiming to this. Clyde told them, oh, we're trying to get away from that word Indian. And these women, they told him, Sonny, we are Indians. When our ancestors rescued Columbus, he called us Indios. And Indio, I guess, means godlike in the Spanish language. They'll give you the shirt off your back. They'll do anything for you. We are Anishinaabe. We are Choctaw. We're Lakota. We're Dene. We're all these different tribal nations. We're indigenous people. Over the years, all these Indian organizations were created. National Congress of American Indians, American Indian Movement, the damn Bureau of Indian Affairs, which, is a joke. But then in the 1990s, all this politically correct things happened. And the United States government started calling us Native Americans. And there's a lot of people out there, a lot of Indian people, a lot of indigenous people are saying we're Native Americans. Baloney. Anybody born in North America, Central America, South America is a Native American. They are born in the Americas. We are indigenous. We are Indians. I use the term Native Americans once in a while, but I try not to. But even today, when Lisa or my wife Dawn or somebody, a female, they're always the ones that tell us we have to do something. And they tell us what it is. And then we put the call out and it gets done. As Dave mentioned, there's female leadership in these chapters. There's female leadership on the Grand Governing Council. The women that gave us birth as individuals. The women gave us our name, American Indian Movement. Ain't nobody's gonna change that. For a while there was some talk about changing the name of American Indian Movement to American Indigenous Movement. That's not gonna happen. That's a slap into the face of the founders and all the people that have helped create the movement, supported the movement, and did the movement's job as American Indian Movement. With these autonomous chapters, you know, they don't want to be under national AIM because we have bylaws and we have things that we go by, rules. We should be drug-free, alcohol-free, walk the red road. You don't necessarily have to go to be a sun dancer or get in a sweat lodge, but it would be, that's your own choice. We shouldn't drink. We shouldn't wear something like this in a bar. Anything with AIM on it. We will take it off their back. Whether it's a cap, a hat, a t-shirt, a hoodie, a jacket, a sweatshirt, whatever. About 2 months ago, month and a half ago, I had to go out to California to say goodbye to my brother. He was in hospice care. I get out there and I get up to where he's at. I'm there 3 or 4 minutes and is talking to my brother. And this nurse comes in and she says, are you related to Stephen? I says, yeah, I'm my brother. I'm his brother. I introduced myself, blah, blah, blah. She said, is there any way you can go to a liquor store and get Steve some beer? Doctor said he can have beer, you can have alcohol, and smoke cigarettes. I said, well, when I was talking to Stephen, He was talking, just quiet. Could hardly hear him. I told that nurse, Steve don't drink beer. I drink, I want a effing beer, just loud and clear. I says, okay, I'll go get one. So I had my jean jacket on and a different AIM cap. So I go to the liquor store and I'm out in Santa Barbara, California. Ain't nobody out there, some neighborhood. Ain't nobody know me or nothing. Shit, I got out of the car, started to walk in. Whoa, wait a minute. I had to go take my jacket off, take my hat off, and buy this 12-pack of beer and these cigarettes for my brother. And I'm walking out and I'm looking around like, thanks, Frank. Ain't nobody know who you are out here. It's been years since I was in a liquor store. And it's a 10 million to 1 shot that. But if I would have came walking out of that liquor store with my jean jacket with that big old patch on it, somebody would have got a picture of that or something. It's little things like that that we can't do. Getting back to the women. As I said, they gave us birth. They take care of us. When we're down, they lift our spirits up. Everything. We literally owe women our life. And there's folks out there that are sick, that alcohol, drugs, and they mistreat women. That's, if you're AIM, you respect them women, and don't let me find out you're not.
Somebody else.
My wife said, let somebody else talk now. So I'll listen to her.
Thanks, Frank. And this is Frank. So it's amazing what you said there about the name of the American Indian Movement. I just have to do a quick story before I go back to Joe. And, you know, my uncle always talks about when AIM was at Wounded Knee and how he was proud to be a Native American in 1973 because of AIM and because of the American Indian Movement. And, you know, the colonizers called us Indians, and I think American Indian Movement is throwing that back in their face. So I just say Peeny Gigi for keeping the name and the brand and the logo, because the history really hits deep with our people all over. Joe, I think we're going to start wrapping this up here a little bit. And I was wondering if you had some thoughts about what Frank was saying and maybe some closing thoughts too.
Sure. Again, I just want to say Pila Maya to everyone for listening, all the people who are listening. I would also say that if you do have an opportunity to go into a sweat lodge, I encourage you to take that opportunity. Sun dancing, maybe you want to think about, but certainly if you have an opportunity to participate in ceremony, that's our life. We are a ceremony people. And I'd like to say, which has not been mentioned yet, is that the American Indian movement was founded as a spiritual movement first, and it will always be a spiritual movement. My connection with the American Indian movement has always been spiritual, not political. I count on other people to handle the political side of it. But first and foremost, we are a spiritual movement, and that people need to recognize that and to know that. Just to echo what Frank was saying is that we do, as we move into 2021, we do need to re-recognize the importance of our women. We need to re-recognize that we as men, we as male leaders need to learn to remember how to lead from behind, to remember that we take our direction from the women, and that's how we move forward. That's how we move forward as a people. That's how we move forward as Turtle Island. That's how we move forward as humanity. So I want to thank you for giving me that opportunity to just close with that.
Wow, that's perfect. I just have a really quick question too. I know one of the things that members call AIM is the movement. Can you elaborate just a little bit on the difference between a group and a movement for our audience?
Sure. A group is a bunch of people that get together and do a lot of talking. A movement moves forward. Taku shkan, they say. Shkan, movement forward. That's the Taku shkan is the flow of life. It's in everything. It's how we move. And a movement understands that flow, understands that chanku wakan, that sacred hoop, understands that that hoop is broken, and that we're trying to mend that hoop with all of the wowakan that we do, all of the good that we do. We're trying to mend that hoop, whether it's working on changing the racist names, whether it's feeding the hungry, whether it's doing ceremony, whether it's making sure that we have chapters moving forward. All of that is wowakan. And when we take that wowakan, and every time we do that, we take a little bit of that wowashike out of the world, a little bit of that bad out of the world. And that's what we are doing as a movement. And if people from Turtle Island would be open to sharing that with people who are not necessarily from Turtle Island, but we were put here on Turtle Island to live with this land. Everything is tied to the land. So we can't be so closed that we close everyone off from the land. We have to live with this land. We have to learn to live with this land, because this is our mother. And if we don't live with it, we'll live against it. And in the end, we won't make it.
Well, we talk about being colonized, and the colonizers too were colonized at one time, and they had a relationship with Mother Earth and Father Sky too, and have forgot their way. And I think we're one of the last, as Native Americans, one of the last people to hold on to that. And it's great to see allies jump aboard, but I just want to say Pinigigi to you, Joe, for all you do, and really for being on and working with AIM, and you work behind AIM, and that cool garden you have in your backyard too. I noticed that.
That's actually my front yard. Food sovereignty.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it's about.
Robert's talking about my girlfriend and I actually had this kind of 3-year project going on with my front yard to not have a yard at all, but to just have food and medicinals in my front yard that anybody could eat. My girlfriend has helped move that project from a 3-year project to, I think in the last 6 weeks, the whole yard is almost gone. By spring, we'll have what they call an urban farm. Feeding people. Food sovereignty is what it's about, man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how we're kept going as people too, and to remind our white allies and our colonizers that they did have a relationship with Mother Earth and Father Sky at one time.
Agreed. In fact, just last night I was talking with my girlfriend about this very subject, and the idea of sharing that. My girlfriend works really closely with the plants. She knows she's not indigenous, but she takes the time to learn indigenous names, indigenous uses, how to make medicine properly, and how to defer to Native people whenever she's doing that. But I really believe that that's what allies need to do. Is that the bottom line is that non-indigenous people are not going to go away. And I believe in my heart that we need to be open to opening up their minds and their hearts to this land, because if you're tied to the land, you'll never want to harm it. When you understand that that the water that you drink and the food that you eat has to be there for 7 generations from now, when you know that, when you truly know that, then we'll be able to, like I said, we'll make it. Without knowing that, we won't.
Yeah, exactly. Really good words again. I want to go to Dave Ortiz and get his final thoughts about the show and about the future of AIM and what Dave is working on. This is American Indian Movement Grand Governing Council show. And Dave, do you have any final words here before I get to Frank? You're on mute, and I have a coffee cup that says that.
Yeah. Okay. I want to, as everybody knows, this pandemic has, affected everybody, and it affected Indian country, severely. And there's some nations that are locked down. The Dene people, suffered greatly. And so I want to recognize some of the chapters that are mobilizing to help their communities. I'm a director of AIM Central Texas, but I'm spending more and more of my time in Pennsylvania, and in my absence, Frankie Orona, who's a co-director, has done an outstanding job. He's brings new blood to the leadership, and so AIM Central Texas is like providing back home. AIM Central Texas is providing food and produce every other Saturday. Frankie goes to the market and gets all this produce and delivers it to elders, so they don't have to leave their home. And just recently, our members they collected coats and warm clothes because AIM Central Texas, because many of our members Sundance at Eagle Butte, at Greengrass, right outside Eagle Butte on the Cheyenne Res, a special connection to the Res. So all our clothes all those coats and blankets and everything that we were able to acquire for them is going to be shipped here in the next week or so. So, and there's other chapters that are doing, other, protecting the elders and keeping making sure that this virus, that the effects of it are not as damaging as some of the other places that we hear about. I just want to acknowledge what they're doing, and they're doing a good job, and I'm very proud of all the chapters.
Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome. Frank, before we end the show here, I'd really like to have you end the show, but I want to ask you a quick question, Frank. And the question is, AIM is still doing good trouble, and I saw some young AIMsters up on line 3 protesting line 3 and being arrested. I just want to give them a shout out, and I know you know them and we know them, and to keep up the good work.
That family with that young lady that was arrested, it's very strong, very, very, very strong movement family. There's another strong movement family. One of the women called me a week or so ago. One of the goals for the movement for 2021 is, I haven't brought this to the Grand Governing Council or anybody else yet. She works for the National Park Service down in Arizona. Her family is the Pacheco family from Minneapolis. Very strong, very strong, very strong movement family. She wants to petition the National Park Service for tribal civil rights historic landmark. And what me and Dorothy talked about was maybe the location where the first AIM office was on Franklin Avenue, or even the house in North Minneapolis where the first meeting was held. To get some type of plaque or something placed recognizing tribal civil rights and the American Indian movement. One of the other goals for 2021 is, if you look at these faces, almost all of them, we're all up there in age. We're not all as old as Dave Ortiz, but we're up there. We got to get more young people. As Joe said, we got two youth on the Grand Governing Council, but we need the youth, but we need people in their 30s, 35, 40 to get re-involved with the movement so we can keep on moving on. And another thing, locally here in Minneapolis, this winter, we have a lot of elders that own their houses, and their elders, they need their sidewalk shoveled. They need rides to the store to get groceries. We used to do that for our people. Used to bring them food. We used to take care of them. We have to get some people on the patrol or anybody to contact me, and I'll give you an address of some elders. When it snows, because in Minneapolis, you have to have your sidewalk shoveled within 24 hours of a snowstorm, or you can get fined. And our elders can't afford that. We have to start taking care of our elders and our youth and our women and everybody else. So I'd like to again say miigwech to all that have joined us, our participants here. Peter, greetings. And to everybody else, Happy New Year. 19 days and a get up. 19 days and get the F out, Trump. I'm counting that down for him.
Happy New Year, everybody. Peeny Gigi for letting me host this historic show and be witness to everybody working a good way, Native American community.
Also, a special miigwech out to Frank Yorona down there in Texas for setting this up, along with Robert miigwech,
In Oglala.
Ogama, everybody else that was involved in the production of this show, this first show.
Yeah. Petey Gigi, thank you so much. And Frank, go ahead. I'm sorry I didn't interrupt you.
There's a ongoing virtual powwow and Elkathon going on Facebook. That's going until about just after midnight tonight. Switch over to them. Try to participate in that. Be safe, be strong, and hang in there.
All right.
We're still here. Good night. Happy New Year.